There's a painting that hangs in the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg that no art historian can fully explain. It's called The Great Fire, and it depicts Moscow in 1812 burning. Except when you look closely, really look, something is wrong. The fire doesn't burn like a normal fire. The buildings don't collapse the way buildings should collapse. And in the background, barely visible, there's a light, too bright, too intense, too white. A light that looks nothing like flame. I stared at that painting for 3 hours. The guards thought I was insane, but I couldn't leave because I had seen that light before in photographs from Hiroshima, in footage from nuclear tests, in documentary images of thermal devastation. That painting, created in 1812, shows the visual signature of a nuclear blast, and no one talks about it. The year 1812 is taught as the year Napoleon invaded Russia, a conventional war of muskets and cavalry, artillery and tactics. We are told Napoleon's army was defeated by winter and Russian resistance. 600,000 soldiers marched into Russia, only 10,000 returned, the greatest military disaster in history. Except when you examine the evidence, nothing about 1812 makes sense as a conventional war, because 1812 wasn't a war, it was an extermination, the systematic incineration of the Tartarian Empire. In 1812, fires destroyed almost every major city across the northern hemisphere. Not small fires, not accidents, but catastrophic fires consuming entire metropolitan areas in hours. Moscow burned for 6 days, so intense it created its own weather, a firestorm with winds strong enough to lift grown men off their feet, and temperatures so extreme that stone buildings melted. New York burned, the southern district consumed in a single night, with official cause listed as unknown. Philadelphia had a massive fire. Baltimore burned. Washington, D.C. burned so completely they rebuilt the White House. Boston had multiple fires. Charleston, New Orleans, all in 1812, all catastrophic, all explained away as unfortunate accidents or consequences of the War of 1812. Yet Russia and America were not at war with each other. Napoleon's campaign and the American War of 1812 happened simultaneously on opposite sides of the planet. Cities burned on both continents at the same time with the same inexplicable intensity. Eyewitness accounts are terrifying not because of what people saw, but because of what they described without understanding it. A woman in Moscow wrote, "The light came first, brighter than 1,000 suns. We covered our eyes, but the light burned through our hands. Then came the wind. Then came the fire. A man described a great flash that turned night into day, the flash before the sound before the fire, and the fire appearing all at once as if the air itself was burning. That is thermal radiation arriving before the shockwave, the signature of nuclear detonation described in 1812. A soldier outside Moscow wrote, "The trees were burnt but still standing, leaves gone, branches intact but black, all the trees pointed away from the city center. That is blast pattern." A Russian doctor recorded wounds without flame exposure, skin falling away, hair falling out, vomiting blood, rapid deaths, and others dying weeks later from mysterious sickness, a description that matches acute radiation syndrome from fallout. The official history says Moscow burned because Napoleon's forces set fires during their retreat, but the timeline breaks. The Great Fire began on September 14, 1812. Napoleon entered the city on September 14, 1812. His forces arrived to a city already burning. Napoleon's army was devastated before winter even started. By October, most of his army was already gone, not defeated in battle and not frozen. A French military report called Advancing Through Empty Cities, the Great Silence, intact buildings, food on tables, possessions left behind as if entire populations had vanished. That is mass evacuation before catastrophe. Then the fires came, city after city, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Kazan, Smolensk. Glass was found across ruins, buildings fused into glossy residue, and an ash layer sits beneath major Russian cities at the same depth. A cultural discontinuity in the early 19th century, a reset of civilization. It was not just Russia. In South America, Caracas was destroyed in 1812, with accounts of ground that burned and buildings that melted. In the Caribbean, eruptions were simultaneous and coordinated. In Asia, Delhi, Kolkata, and Manila saw catastrophic fires in 1812 or 1813 with the same impossible intensity. Before we go deeper, tell me in the comments, which detail challenges the conventional narrative most for you and why? Do the eyewitness phrases, the blast patterns, or the ash layers raise the biggest questions? I want to hear your take. Ancient records describe technology that sounds like nuclear devices. The Mahabharata speaks of weapons bright as 10,000 suns, and ancient sites show vitrification, stone turned to glass. Like Mohenjo-daro, with radiation signatures above normal background levels, patterns echoed in ruins from 1812. The War of 1812 was the cover. Napoleon's invasion was the distraction. What happened was a systematic nuclear bombardment of Tartaria's cities, a global reset followed by a rewritten history. If you want more mysterious deep dives into contested history, subscribe for future investigations. The paintings remember, the scorch marks remember, the glass layers remember, the radiation signatures remember, the eyewitness accounts remember. The evidence whispers the same story. If this was the end of Tartaria and the beginning of the lie we call modern history, what else have we forgotten and who wanted us to?